Once upon a time, I was a very heavy user of WhatsApp. Whenever I would be getting a little bored, a little frustrated, almost unthinkingly, mindlessly, my hand would pick up the phone and I would check my WhatsApp. Now, this may have happened to you as well. Sometimes you're in the middle of your work and something comes up which is a little difficult, maybe a little frustrating, or the work is a little tedious. And in that moment, almost unknowingly, unthinkingly, we pick up our phone, check WhatsApp or Instagram or something. And after that, we actually feel terrible. We feel like, why am I not able to focus? Because you are not productive, you're getting distracted, and it is not a great experience. So then there is a big question, which is that if something makes us unhappy or frustrated, why do we keep taking that action? Because the theory goes that our brain wants to do things that make us feel good, but this is really not making us happy. So why do we keep doing this? In fact, even when we resolve that from tomorrow I'm going to be more focused, I will not check my phones very often, or I'll not do this, despite that, we end up doing it. Why? That is what we will understand today. And I'm going to explain this to you from the point of view of neuroscience. We'll understand what happens in our brain which makes us behave in this very counterintuitive and destructive manner. To understand this, let us start with the time when you first started using your smartphone. The first time you may have checked WhatsApp, as an example, you may have found some messages from your friends or some people you are working with. And when you see those new messages or replies to your messages, what happens? First of all, your sense of curiosity is satisfied. When you see something novel, it makes us feel good. Humans are innately curious. Second thing is, when you are able to see a message, you make a social connection with somebody. Now, both of these things, curiosity and social connections, they are very important for us. Why? Because if you look at evolution, human evolution, in ancient times, for our ancestors, there were certain things that helped them survive in the wild. And these were two of those things. Among our ancestors, people who were more socially connected, they were more likely to survive. Why? Because in their tribe, if people liked them, then in times of difficulty, they would help them, save them, or give them support. So they're more likely to be well fed, they're more likely to be saved from dangers. Similarly, curiosity also is something that would have increased the odds of survival in the wild for our ancestors. Why? Because if you're curious, then you will notice if there is any sound or something is changing around you. So if there is any danger, there is a predator, you would be able to notice the danger and respond to it. All right. So curiosity and making social connections, these are things that have helped us survive in the wild. And our brain has so evolved that whatever helps you survive, it is likely to make us do those actions. Now, how do you make the person take a certain action? For that, I want to give you an analogy. Let's think of a school where, let's say, there is a kid in the class and the school teacher gives a lot of homework. And whenever this kid does the homework properly and nicely, what does the teacher do? The teacher wants to encourage children to do the homework. So the teacher may some nice comments, may write like excellent, well done, great job, or maybe put a star, or maybe in front of the class praise that child for doing very good homework. Now, all these things, they are rewards. And what happens? Human beings, our nature is such that whatever actions get rewarded, we are likely to perform that action more often. So the next time there is homework given, this kid who was appreciated a lot the previous time is more likely to do the homework nicely and show it to the teacher. All right. Now, this is pretty much what happens in our brain. Any action that helps us make social connections or displays our curiosity, those actions are to be reinforced positively. And the way our brain does it is that in our brain, there are these circuits called the reward circuits. Okay. And our brain releases a neurotransmitter, or it can release a neurotransmitter called the dopamine. So when this dopamine chemical or neurotransmitter, when it hits the reward circuits, then these circuits light up, so to say, and we feel really happy. All right. And therefore, we are likely to perform those actions again. All right. Think about it. You check WhatsApp and you make a social connection, or your sense of curiosity is satisfied, and now Your reward circuits light up. Why? Because your brain has released dopamine because it wants you to do that action again. And now you're feeling very good. If you're feeling good, what happens? Next time you are more likely to perform that action. This is the step one we need to understand. But there is more. Next, going back to our example of that kid in the school. Now this child does the homework, and second time, third time, every time he does the homework, the teacher puts nice remarks, gives compliments. After some time, the child starts anticipating. Earlier, the first time in fact, when the teacher put that compliment on the notebook, the child felt very happy after reading that compliment. But once this has happened, let's say a couple of dozen times, now after that the child has done the homework very nicely and he goes to school. He is anticipating. He knows that the teacher is going to appreciate, and in anticipation, already he is feeling happy. You see the difference? Earlier, he felt happy after the teacher gave the compliment. Now he's feeling happy before the teacher has done that because he knows that the compliment is coming. The same thing happens in our brain. When checking your WhatsApp or Instagram, if it satisfies your curiosity or if it helps you connect with other people, those things, when they happen again and again and again, our brain now starts anticipating. So now when you get bored, even before you have checked your WhatsApp or Instagram, what happens? Your brain is anticipating the reward and it releases dopamine. Dopamine hits the reward circuits and now you're already feeling good. But now think about it. If the student did the homework very nicely and went to the school and gave the homework to the teacher, and the teacher looked at it and just graded it and did not put any comment, what do you think will happen to the child? Make a guess. Very simple. The child is going to be very disappointed, very dejected. So the happiness went up, but when the child was anticipating something and that thing did not happen, happiness goes down. The exact same thing happens in our brain as well. So when we are anticipating that, okay, I will check my WhatsApp or Instagram and I'll get some positive reinforcement, but let's say you don't check your WhatsApp, or even if you check, you find there are no new messages. You must have noticed that sometimes you check WhatsApp or check email and there is nothing new. What happens? Have you noticed? You feel a little disappointed. In fact, you probably go and then check maybe some other app. Why are you disappointed? Because we were expecting something positive and that did not happen. So dopamine goes up initially, and if the expectation is not met, then it crashes, it goes down. That is why we have this craving to check our app. Why? Because first, the motivation goes up. So when we get bored now, in anticipation, dopamine has gone up and our brain wants us to take that action and check WhatsApp. And if we don't do it, if we hold back, then we did not get the reward we wanted and dopamine crash happens. That is why you feel terrible if you're not able to check those apps. There's one question which I haven't answered here, which is that our checking off or picking up the phone and checking WhatsApp, Instagram, etc., it happens almost mindlessly. How did that happen? Because in the beginning, we were taking these decisions consciously. So there is one more thing that happens. When we take conscious decisions, when we decide or when we consciously decide, okay, let me check my WhatsApp, those conscious decisions are controlled in our brain. They are managed by our prefrontal cortex. There's part of our brain in the front, which is called the prefrontal cortex. Think of it as the thinking brain. This is the part of the brain which plans. It takes deliberate action. So deliberate action is taken by our prefrontal cortex. But when our brain notices that every time we check Instagram or WhatsApp, it feels good, then it says, you know what, why do we have to make it a deliberate action? Whenever I'm getting bored, why do we need to consider all the options and then say, let's go and check WhatsApp? Why not make it automatic? So there is another part of our brain which is deeper inside our cerebral hemisphere. It is called basal ganglia. So think of basal ganglia as the center of our brain, or the part of the brain which controls your habitual actions, automatic actions. So earlier, in the beginning, when you were bored, checking your smartphone was a conscious choice. But when you've done that a couple of hundred or thousand times, then what happens? It becomes an automatic behavior. Why? Because that action has moved from prefrontal cortex to basal ganglia, which can make you act unthinkingly. That is why you pick up your phone without realizing, totally mindlessly. All right. So this is what is going on. Even though these behaviors, they feel frustrating, but that frustration comes later. But in that moment, when your dopamine has spiked, now you are positively motivated. And for whatever reason, if you prevent yourself from checking, or if you don't check WhatsApp or don't check your Instagram, now you were anticipating something which you did not get. What happens? Dopamine crash, and now you feel bad. That is why we feel terribly if we somehow stop ourselves. And that is the reason why we are not able to stop ourselves. You might do it once or twice, but after some time it becomes difficult to hold ourselves back. And that is why digital de-addiction is not something we can just break through sheer willpower. We have to have mechanisms to override these innate tendencies. These actions that our brain right now finds rewarding, checking the smartphone, we have to change those settings and we have to make it non-rewarding. In fact, in our digital de-addiction program called Undistractable, we talk about those things in detail. But in this video, I wanted to help you understand this. Why? Because very often you will blame yourself and say, you know what, I'm not disciplined, I'm not this, I'm not that. No, it's not your fault. This is how the brain operates. I hope this will now reduce your guilt and motivate you to take the action to start rewiring your brain and start breaking these habits. Thank you very much.